Welcome to the BrandWise podcast, where we talk about the big branding moves that business owners are making and the why behind it. I'm your host, Jess Freeman, here to help you be wise and be bold. When is the last time you opened up your website analytics, maybe saw like a pretty decent amount of traffic and thought, cool, but why isn't anyone reaching out? Because that's the worst feeling. Because I know you're doing the work, you're posting content, you're showing up online. Maybe you've already invested in SEO a little bit or ads, and people are landing on your site. You can see that, but those visitors aren't turning into clients or customers, and it's super frustrating. And we all know, obviously, that traffic alone doesn't pay the bills. Even if you are someone that is, doing media buying or ads on your site, that's not going to pay all the bills. You need your website to actually convert, to take someone from just browsing to, I need this, let me book a call. So we're going to dig into why that disconnect might be happening and what you can do about it. The first thing I want to talk about with this kind of traffic inquiry gap is conversion rates, because people often ask me what a good conversion rate is. And most industries expect a website conversion rate of around 2 to 5%. And people are usually shocked to hear that because it's pretty low. You're like, 2%? What? But hopefully that gives you a little bit of relief. Like, you shouldn't be expecting to convert 50 or 75% of your traffic. So give yourself a break there. Hopefully, again, that gives you some relief. But if you are getting, let's say, 500 visitors a month to your website and only 2 inquiries, that's probably a sign that something is off. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is that if you haven't already, you need to take a closer look at your analytics. Where are people landing? How long are they staying? Are they even seeing your offers? Are they landing on a blog post and then not ever going to a sales page? That is the first step in closing the gap. Figuring out, what is the data telling you? And unfortunately, the answer isn't just getting more traffic. Now, that could help, because if you are someone who's maybe only getting like 50 to 75 visitors a month, then yes, we do want some more traffic. But more traffic doesn't always mean more leads. We assume that if we just get more people to our site, some of them will turn into clients, but that's not always how it works. More traffic isn't helpful if those people aren't the right fit, or if your site doesn't give them a reason to stick around or to do something. I've seen plenty of business owners double their traffic after a nice little SEO push and still get crickets in their inbox because the traffic didn't come with the right messaging or a clear client journey. The volume went up, but the conversions didn't. And if your site is ranking for really broad or even irrelevant keywords, you're going to get visitors who are never going to hire you in the first place. So that one blog post you have from 2020 about vanilla cupcakes is not going to do a good job of converting people into leads. That vanilla cupcake recipe is probably attracting all kinds of people to your site, and it's not related to your services. Sometimes people are a little scared when I tell them to prune their content and delete anything that's irrelevant, especially if some of those posts that I'm telling them to delete actually bring in traffic, because they're like, oh, but then my traffic's going to dip. Okay, but it wasn't bringing in the right people, so it was kind of pointless traffic. This is why keyword research and client research are so important. You want to attract people who are looking for exactly what you offer, and your content should reflect that. So use your analytics, and if you have it set up, Google Search Console, to see what people are searching for before they even land on your site. And if it doesn't align with your services, it's probably time for a content and or keyword audit. Now, Of course, blog content isn't the only thing to blame here. One of the biggest reasons people visit your site and don't reach out is because your messaging isn't landing. It's not connecting with them. And I don't mean that you're doing something wrong or that your services are wrong. I mean that the way that your website talks about those services isn't clicking with your ideal clients. Maybe it's too vague. Maybe it's packed with like buzzwords and jargon and industry terms that don't feel human, especially, I'm just going to say it, especially if you use ChatGPT and not well, and it sounds really generic. You have to make the value really, really clear and help people connect. Strong messaging should feel like a mirror. It should help your visitors see themselves, their struggles, and their goals reflected in your words. So when your copy speaks directly to what they're going through and shows how you can help, that is when inquiries start rolling in. So if your CTAs are pretty solid, your traffic is fairly decent, and you're still hearing crickets, don't overlook your messaging. That might be the missing piece. So I do want to get into some nitty-gritty stuff. So here are a few ways you can maybe tweak or audit your website to help with some conversions. First, audit your CTAs. Make sure they're clear, that they're easy to spot, and that they're using action-oriented language. And if you can make them really specific, that usually helps. Then I want you to check your messaging. Does your site clearly explain what you do, who you help, and why it matters in a way that feels human, not stiff and not generic? Then I want you to add some trust builders. So testimonials, credentials, recognizable logos from like press and media mentions. That is going to go a long way. I want to make sure that you're optimizing for mobile view and site speed, because if it takes your site forever to load or it looks messy, you're going to lose people. It's 2025. People have zero patience for that. And lastly, you can also use tools like Hotjar or Crazy Egg to do heat maps and see where people are clicking and what's being ignored. What are they scrolling past? Because at the end of the day, your website should guide visitors like a really good front desk person. They should be welcoming, informative, really clearly leading people to the next step. And after you make some changes, you should be able to see the impact in your analytics and in your inbox. So more button clicks, more form submissions, more conversions, more leads. You should see this. Now, whether or not you're going to see that within a week or 2 weeks or a month, that's going to depend on how much traffic you have and how much you are sending people to your site from email and social. So there's not really like a specific timeline. Okay, you should see a difference in 2 weeks because if you only have 87 people visiting your site in a month, it's going to take longer for you to see a difference or an impact in your analytics or your conversions versus if you get a couple hundred or even up to a few thousand, you might see the impact much, much sooner. Now, you'll notice in that list of things that I mentioned that you could kind of tweak and audit, I didn't mention SEO. And of course, I mean, I love SEO, but a lot of clients in this situation will ask me, okay, so here's some things I should work on. I kind of, know that I need to work on this, this, and this, but should I focus on SEO first or my messaging? And I say messaging every time. Because what's the point of getting more people to your website if the copy and the messaging doesn't really tell them what you do and who you help and how to take the next step and isn't connecting with them? If your messaging is vague or confusing or it's not compelling, perfect SEO is not going to convert those visitors into clients. Think of SEO as like a road that brings people to your house, but messaging is what makes them want to walk through the door, kick off their shoes, and stay a while. That's what builds trust. That's what turns, maybe into, yes, let's book. Let me reach out to her. So, yes, SEO is super important. You know I love SEO, but before you start optimizing blog posts or tweaking keywords, make sure the foundation is solid. Make sure your website actually says what it needs to say and says it in a way that feels clear and warm and client centered. Then, once your messaging is strong, then we can focus on bringing in more traffic and know that it has a higher chance of converting. So keep testing, keep refining, keep putting your ideal client front and center. And if you need help figuring out what's working and what's not, you can book a website audit with me so we can see what's happening on the site, and you will walk away with clear next steps and real insight into why your site isn't converting and how to fix it. Your traffic is valuable. Whether it's 500, 5,000, or 50 people, that traffic is valuable. But let's make sure it's actually working for you. Are you a squiggle or a square? Go to justcreatives.com/quiz to find out where your brand ends up and find out what a square or squiggle even means. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to leave a review or share it on Instagram and tune in next week for another episode.